Okay, so this is mainly for the people that missed out on Friday with all the different trips that we had out. So I'm not here on Monday, so you're not going to need to check your homework. And hopefully you've already checked your grade and been able to see which problems you missed. So go straight to the ones that you missed on this video. Just go ahead and fast forward. Here's number one. There's 27 animals in the field. Some are goats, some are ducks. There's 92 legs in all. How many of each animal are in that field? Well, what you've got to do is you've got to define the variables. In other words, what do they want to find out? They want to find D, the number of ducks, and they want to find out G, the number of goats. First equation that we can build would be add up all the ducks and goats, and it would equal the 27 animals. So there's your first equation. The second one's a little bit different, though. It's the idea of how many legs does each animal have. Well, 2 for each duck and 4 for each goat. And if you added up all the legs, it'd be 92. And then we're just into elimination method, and I'm multiplying that first equation by -2, so that way I can cancel out my d's over there. So there we go. We did the distribution, and now we're ready to solve this system of equations. Again, the d's canceled out, and we're left with 2g equals 38. And as you can see, we got 19 goats. Now, how do you get the second variable? You got to go back to that easy equation and plug in what you know. You got 19 for the g, so you plug that 19 in there. And then just go solve for the ducks, which would be 8 left. All right, now here's number 2. We got to find out how many math books and how many science books that Emily bought. We know that she bought a total of 8 books, and each math book cost 60, and each science book cost 50. So since the very first equation is pretty apparent, add up all the books and you get 8, we get m plus s equals 8. Now, the other one, we're going to use the cost of the books there. You know, $60 for each math book plus $50 for every single science book equals a total of $460. There's the 2 equations. I'd like to get rid of the s's, so I'm just going to multiply the whole equation by -50. And there's the distribution set up through there, and we are ready to add the 2 equations together. What will happen is that the s's cancel, and we're able to solve for m, so it's 6. How do we get the s, though? Well, you go back to one of the equations and plug in what you know, the 6 for m, right? 6 math books. And it becomes pretty apparent that you've got 6 math books and 2 science books. All right, so on a field trip, they used vans and buses to go on this trip. They used a total of 14 vehicles, and then each van, they tell us, held 13 students. It's got 45 students in each bus, and 406 students went. And they're asking you, hey, how many buses, how many vans did we use? So again, we have to go through and make sure that we define the variable. I'm going to use V for vans, and I'm going to use B for buses. One thing I want to point out here is that of all 3 numbers, actually all 4 numbers, only one of those numbers is labeled as vehicles. So we'll say vehicles plus vehicles equals vehicles. V plus B equals 14. Now, the second equation, what's happening here is that there are 13 kids that ride on every single one of these vans. So if I plugged a 1 in for V, we can know how many kids we get from this term. 1 times 13 would be 13. If we had 3 vans, 3 times 13 would be 39. So this whole term would be students here. Same thing's going on with the buses over here. We'll plug in how many buses go, but each bus will have 45 kids, so this would be kids. And then over here is kids. So if we add up all the kids, those numbers are totally different than that 14 vehicle number, right? So that's the reason we stuck the 13, the 45, and the 406 all together in that equation. We're ready for elimination. I'd like to change the first one to where it becomes -13b, so I'll multiply it by -13. And you can see the results of distributing that -13 through the whole first equation there. I think that'll be -182. And now we're ready to add these 2 equations together, and as you can see, the b's cancel out, and we're left with 32b. And the other side, we're left with 224. divide both sides by 32, and suddenly we know that we use 7 buses. Now, how do we get vans? You go back to the original equation, you plug in what you know. So that bus was 7, we'll plug that 7 right in for it, and we can solve and know that we had 7 vans. All right, so here at Wilbur's Printing Incorporated, we had 2 types of printing presses, Model A's and Model B's. They've got different capabilities, but we just want to know how many A printing presses are there, how many B printing presses are there, so we'll use A and B for our variables. Now, I do know that he has a total of 8 presses. I just don't know how many of those 8 are A's and how many of them are B's. I don't know. All the other numbers that they give us is all about the number of books per day. So that 8 kind of stands out by itself there. So let's just say A plus B equals 8. You know, if you added up all the presses, it should equal 8. So there's a nice, easy equation. Now, I do know 60 books a day for A and 75 books a day for B will give you a total of 525 books for one day. And that's where that second equation came from. And I've been deciding that I'd like to try to cancel out the A, so I'm multiplying that first equation by negative 60. And then we just add the equations together. Apologies, this is a negative 480 that's sitting here on this end. My handwriting's a little sloppy. But after we add those equations together, we get 15b equals 45. And then we would just, solve for B. Next thing you know, we know that we had 3 printing presses that were Model B type. Go back to the original equation, plug 3 in for the letter B, and hey, it's pretty easy to see that you have 5 Model A printing presses and 3 Model B printing presses. All right, so this kitchen supply company, they make custom spoons and forks, and they give you a really long problem here. You've got to decipher what's going on through there. The first thing is just know what they're asking you for. They want to know how many forks and how many spoons did they make last April. And so let's just make it pretty simple. F equals number of forks, S will equal the number of spoons. Now, as you go through and you look at all those numbers, try to keep track what it means. That's $2 to buy supplies to make the fork. That's $2 to buy supplies to make the spoon. Then they talk about selling. Well, that's totally different. But then finally we bump on to $54, and that was talking about supplies. They spent $54 total dollars to get enough supplies to make all the forks and spoons. So that's your first equation. 2F plus 2S equals 54. Then when you come back for the other ones, it's talking about how much they're selling the forks and spoons for and how much money they made. So $6 for a fork is what they sold it for. $4 for each spoon is what they sold it for, and they made a total of $146. So there's your second equation. And now it's just time to do the elimination method. And I'm going to try to cancel out the S's. So I'm going to make that positive 2S into a negative 4S by multiplying it by negative 2. And once you do the elimination, you'll find out pretty quickly you've got 19 forks. Doesn't sound like it's that many for a full month, though, but hey, the story problem is what it is. Anyway, you go back to the original equation, or one of the originals. You plug in 19 for the F, and you'll see there we got 38 plus 2S equals 54, minus 38 from both sides to keep the balance. Divide by 2. Next thing you know, we've got 8 spoons. So 19 forks and 8 spoons. One other thing I have to add on here. Number 5 was the most missed question of the homework assignment, and this was the toughest problem. So if you missed it, don't feel too bad, but you do need to learn from your mistakes. Now, over here we've got this system of equations that we need to solve with graphing. So, let's go ahead and pull up our GeoGebra. Let me go ahead and clear off my screen. There we go. And let's take a look at it here. We've got a -1 y-intercept. So I'll go ahead and get my line out, -1, and then we go down 3, to the right 2. The second equation is -3 is my y-intercept, and the slope is -1, to the right 2. And you can see very clearly right there that that puts us at 2, -4 for the solution. This ordered pair will solve both of these equations. Okay, so here's the second one that I've given you. Let's go ahead and clear off the screen here. All right, so I'm at +2 for my y-intercept, and my slope is -1/3. So down 1 and to the right 3. Got the first line graphed. Making some room here so I can graph the second line. -4 is my y-intercept, and I need to go down 7 and to the right 3. And then it's just a matter of finding where these lines cross, or if they cross, and I see it's at -3, +3. So there we go. There's the solution for these. Almost done. Here's number 8. This is the elimination method. It's what we did in the story problems. I'm going to multiply that first equation by -2, so that way I can knock out the x's. It becomes -10x plus 18y equals 216. Add up the two equations. The 10 plus -10x cancels. We're left with 15y equals, I believe it's 255. Yeah, there we go. Divide by 15 on both sides. Next thing you know, we know what y is. Plug that back into one of the original equations. Be careful when you do this. Don't just say 9 times 17 right there. What I'd like you to do is look at it as -9 times 17. Take that front sign in front of it. So -9 times 17 is -153. And hey, then it's a two-step equation. Add 153 to 1 both sides. Divide by 5 on both sides. X equals 9. Y equals 17. All right, same thing, elimination method. I'd like to knock out the y, so I'm going to make that top equation into a +4y, so I multiplied it by +2 as a result. We're ready to go through and solve. To get the second variable, go back to the original equation, or one of the original equations, pop in what you know. So 3 times -4 is -12. And now again, it's a two-step equation, so add 12 to both sides, and you'll get 2y equals -6. Divide by 2, and we get y equals -3. So there you have it, -4, -3. Two more questions. Substitution method, I know that y equals -4, so guess what? You need to pop that right into the y for the other equation. That y will become -4, so it's 14 times -4. And let me just go solve for x. And since we already know that y equals -4, there's nothing else really to do. It's 10, -4. That's an ordered pair. That's what solves both equations. Now this one's a little bit different here. We know that y equals 50x, but that y is separate by itself. But just go ahead and pop that 50x into that other equation. So we're left with 50x equals -1x plus 300. Now we need to get all of our variables to one side, so add 100x to both sides. Next thing you know, we got 150x. It cancels over on that other side and equals 300. And hey, x equals 2. And then just go back to the easiest equation and pop in 2 for x. So 50 times 2 is 100. So there's your ordered pair, 2, 100.